I wanted to get your
Yeah.
opinion on congestion
Let's talk
pricing.
about it.
Okay, I want Transalt's opinion on congestion pricing, and if it's different, your opinion on
Mm.
congestion pricing.
So I would say as an organization, we have been from day one in support of congestion pricing. We have been some of the biggest proponents of congestion pricing, proposing the idea to the city even through a lot of our advocacy in decades past. And really, in the past 10 to 15 years, have been one of the leaders on the advocacy front trying to push forward congestion pricing. We're in the middle of downtown Manhattan right now. We're on 22nd Street and Broadway. Look how many cars are coming through this corridor right now. I mean, it's a really, really beautiful example of what our city could look like, how pedestrians could occupy a space, how people could just have a better quality of life, less, environmental and health concerns because of pollution and traffic violence, just with these enhancements. And congestion pricing is not a magic bullet. It's not going to solve everything, but is a critical step forward in transforming how this city looks. And the money that will be raised via congestion pricing will give the MTA the ability to do these capital investments. This is important for people to understand. When people pay their fare for the MTA, and I'm not defending the MTA because I have a lot of critiques on how they manage their money as well. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
But in this instance, I mean, like, when people pay their fare, they're really paying for the sustainability of the current system, not major enhancements. They're paying for increased service. They're paying for personnel. That's what your fare is going to. The capital investments that we need, new bus lines, elevators, new train lines, those capital projects can only happen with the money that will be raised via congestion pricing. So the congestion pricing money will be going to capital projects, not service enhancements per se. And that's where I think a lot of people will get confused. All the things that we're calling for, making subways more accessible to people who have disability, making more bus lines in communities that are not being serviced, that are transit deserts, all that stuff is capital investment, and that's going to happen with congestion pricing. So a lot of people of color and a lot of people in the outer boroughs are like, we're going to get the short end of the stick with congestion pricing, when in fact, we have done the advocacy to make sure that the MTA earmarks where their money is going, and that money is going into the outer boroughs, is going investment in communities of color. And we're going to continue that advocacy to make sure that it does. Yes.
I didn't know that. Did you know that? I didn't know that.
Now, there's other concerns around like the lack of ability to get into the congestion zone, 60th Street and below. So the question is though, like, will that create more commercial? I think this is the bigger issue, commercial traffic in the outer boroughs, notably the South Bronx, coming out of Hunts Point, coming from upstate New York, commercial trucks that do not want to pay the fare to come in the congestion zone. Will that create more pollution and environmental concerns in the outer boroughs, and specifically the South Bronx, which we know there's a lot of environmental racism and is an asthma valley? Those are real concerns, and the MTA has not done a great job around addressing those early. It has since, through a lot of advocacy and a lot of feedback that we've given the MTA, they've created a symposium of environmental justice organizations in communities of color to come together and advise the MTA on how to proceed with the work. They have really been in partnership with a lot of the local electeds in these communities, talking about how congestion pricing will service these neighborhoods, but the outreach has been poor. They have not gone into the Bronx to talk about what congestion pricing will mean to the service in the Bronx. And because of that, a lot of people are like, yo, we're about to get more pollution. The South Bronx has 4 times higher asthma rates than the rest of the nation. The rest of the nation, 4 times higher.
The cars.
Yeah, we have the 3 highways.
Pollution, and the 3 highways through everyone's neighborhood.
Exactly. And so there's concern, and that's real concern, but that's not a stance to be anti-congestion pricing. That's a let's be pro-congestion pricing, hold the MTA accountable, and then hold the city accountable to make sure they do it right. So when the congestion pricing launches, let's make sure we're in a position as advocates to then push the forward to make sure congestion pricing works and it serves all New Yorkers. And that's not guaranteed, because we know how this city can be.
Yeah,
So that's where the advocacy comes. Yes, they tend to forget.
They tend to implement and forget.
Yes, but we can't be anti. So my personal stance is I've had a lot of critiques over the MTA and how they've handled communication around congestion pricing, and they've actually made it hard for us as advocates who are pro congestion pricing, especially advocates of color from the outer boroughs like me. You know, I was born and raised in Harlem in the Bronx. Like, so for me, the MTA has made it hard for me to speak to my community around congestion pricing. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna be anti-congestion pricing. I'm gonna have this critical support where I can go into spaces. I can go into a commune board meeting and be in favor of congestion pricing, and at the same time critique the MTA in the city and make sure that they're doing it right. Hold the electeds accountable to make sure congestion pricing is done correctly. Because we know if it is, it will be transformative for the city. And it will be, because we're moving forward.
I think it will help them raise some money to make capital improvements.
Yeah.
But you're right. It can't just go back into the richest areas of the country while disadvantaging, potentially disadvantaging.
Or into MTA board members' pockets, you know?
Yeah. Potentially disadvantaging like black and brown neighborhoods by like saddling them with all the congestion, like, and they don't get anything for the trouble.
But on the same token, advocates in the congestion pricing space, people who are pro congestion pricing, can't be dismissive of the concerns of people of color and people in the outer boroughs, because I've seen that a lot too in our space. People who are like, any ill word spoken about against congestion pricing, they're ready to attack. And I understand the spirit, because it's such a critical need.
It. I'm not going to say we don't need it.
Exactly. But you also have to understand where people are coming from.
Keep people accountable.
Yeah,
I think that's